Hey Brian.
What's happening?
Not much. Thanks for having me or coming to visit and talk about some mindfulness, some gratitude journal mindfulness, and in this case, I guess since you're a chef, mindful eating?
Yeah.
Okay.
A mindful eating kind of in my experiences.
Yeah, so about your experience with mindfulness, mindful eating, food, tell me a little bit.
As a chef, eating for me, busy, in the restaurant scene and that kind of stuff was more just about fuel. It was more about eating something quickly, getting done with it so that I could get back on the line and serve and do all those things and, get through the end of the night. It was more mindless than it was anything.
It was a checkbox to...
Yeah, absolutely.
My stomach will not growl as I'm preparing others'
Absolutely.
food.
And it didn't matter what it was just, I just ate just to eat and get it done and move on to service. It translated not just in my work life, but also in my personal life. So, at night I would find myself at home after midnight at least, after getting home from work or whatever, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and watching TV, winding down, that kind of thing from the day or the night. I always kept a box at least, or 6 of cake mixes. My cake mix was strawberry cake mix, and I'd keep that in the pantry, and I would keep cream cheese icing in the fridge or whatever. And I'd bake at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd bake a whole cake, and I'd ice it, and then I'd eat it, the whole thing.
I get that.
And watch TV and not think two things about it. Just, I wasn't necessarily enjoying it. I was just doing something.
Right. I can relate to that, but it wasn't cake. I had other stashes always on hand. But it's the same principle.
Principle.
It's I'm mindlessly shoveling whatever comfort distraction on top of the comfort distraction of TV or whatever else.
Yeah.
So how's that changed?
Well, so in my journey talk that I do with the patients, I do talk a lot about surrender. And so when I came to that spot where I knew that I'd had enough, I had to do something. I had to change something. I weighed 330 plus pounds, and I knew that I didn't want that for my life anymore, for my family and that kind of stuff. So my health, my priorities as far as food and that kind of stuff, I knew had to change. And I fell back on it being a relationship, much like my relationship with God. And I wanted it to be that level of importance because it was, significant. And I knew without changing that nothing else in that regard was going to change. I knew it had to be, like I said, something that high on the significant scale for me for it to mean something, and for me to be motivated enough to really pay attention to it and think about it and make changes and strides towards an end goal, which was that end goal was my health. So eating, exercise, sleep, all those things that I had to dive into.
How is it different? Because I'm thinking about this from a recovery standpoint and an abstinence, like I can't drink alcohol, I can't smoke weed, I can't shoot, snort or whatever. I have to eat,
Right.
So was there a process that you went through? Were there, and if there was, were there any helpful tools or tidbits you could share to help others through that process, from mindless shoveling cake into our mouths after midnight in front of the TV to sitting down and being mindful about what we eat and how we eat it?
So obviously, gratitude and prayer. As a kid growing up, we prayed before every meal. So that was not really necessarily something that was new to me. It was more about the meaning behind it and, not a repetitious kind of something else that I had to get out of the way before I could, eat my food or whatever. But as far as the food itself is concerned, spending, 30 seconds at the beginning of a meal to, number one, give thanks to God, and also in the beginning, at least, I thought about the change. So what I was eating compared to what I'm eating now, and the differences in that, in what it took to prepare it, where it came from, because if I'm sitting there thinking about Duncan Hines strawberry box cake mix, what am I thinking about where that came from? It came from some factory and whatever, and a bunch of machines milled it, threw it all in a bag. And but if I'm thinking about broccoli or asparagus or chickens or eggs or anything like that, then I'm actually thinking about something, and it's not an inanimate object that's just going to fill my stomach and give me some sort of sugar high or whatever. I'm thinking about things that somebody took time to plant, to grow, and the environment that it grew in, that was put there, by my Creator for that purpose. It was put there for me, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So recognize a problem. This has got to stop. I'm unhealthy. This isn't good for me, my family, my relationship with God. Change cake mix to something that you can attribute more wholesome or whatever gratitude for that, setting the stage at the beginning of a meal. Then what? How do I eat mindfully?
We eat with our eyes first. So obviously, you've gone through the process of preparing something, or if you're at a restaurant or something like that, something's been put in front of you. How does it look? I notice vibrancy of color, that kind of stuff, because if it's bright colors or if it's like the darker the green, it's, when you're talking about kale or spinach or something like that, the better it is for you and that kind of stuff. But I just appreciate that more, the colors and stuff of it. So eat with our eyes first, and then smell.
Yeah, I might smell it first coming.
Or you can even hear it if it's,
oh yeah,
fajitas or something like that coming across.
Full sensory involvement in this mindfulness.
Yeah, for sure. See it, smell it, and then taste it, and spending that extra little bit of time to chew, if that makes sense. In that, I slowed down and would realize, where it would have been, I would have stormed through it and never tasted it, never appreciated it, never had any sort of gratitude or anything for it. And slowing it down, I would end up being, realizing, I'm there. I'm to the point where I've had enough. I've eaten, I've eaten my fill, and it would have been half what I would have eaten before if I were just on a tear.
So it's not only being mindful of your sight, smell, taste, your senses enjoying and appreciating this food, is being mindful of how your body's receiving this food.
Absolutely, yeah. And
by taking the time to eat mindfully, we give ourselves time to feel when we're full.
Yeah, 100%.
It seems simple.
It does,
but
it's not. It's hard. Because it
takes practice.
It does. It takes practice, diligence. It's hard. If you have a family and you're sitting with your family and everybody's talking and everybody's doing this and that, and or you're at a restaurant or whatever, and there's distractions. There's things that can pull your attention and that kind of stuff. But making it a priority as part of that relationship thing, it's always going on in the background of my head, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. But you've been practicing for a long time.
Yeah, it's practice for sure, but it's like, I spend at least one meal a day I spend by myself and hone in on those skills. And that's still the same. It's been that way for a long time. I've been here at Pavillon for 12 years, and most every day I eat lunch, in my office, and that's where I practice. But the more repetition and that kind of stuff, the easier it gets. But like I said, with the chewing thing, I would set a certain amount of time, you know, for a bite. But bigger than that, I would set a certain amount of time for a meal, which normally it would have been, you know, somewhere under 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know.
Got to get back to the line.
Right. When it was the cake and that kind of stuff, there was no time limit because there was no thought process.
Gonna eat until the cake is gone.
Yeah, I just, you know, and it would be, you know, an 8 or 9 inch cake or whatever, and I'm just sitting there watching TV, and it was like auto, you know, and I didn't. There was no, and who knows how long it took. I couldn't tell you now how long it took to eat, but I set a certain amount of time, you know, for my meal, and I stick to it, you know, and sometimes in the beginning it may have been a timer on my phone or something like that, but I knew I wanted to take the time to make sure that I could pick out flavors, taste those flavors, enjoy those flavors. With the gratitude part of it, you know, in the beginning, it allowed me to focus on that and not worry about anything else around me.
Awesome.
More difficult, obviously, whenever I'm with family and that kind of stuff. But like I said, at this point, I've done it and done it and done it. And, you know, it's always there working.
Yeah. That tip of one meal a day, dedicating it to the food and to the practice of eating mindfully. That's something I'll take with me for sure.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer at this point in all of my experience. I lost 140 pounds, rather than just cutting something out,
right.
Because, you know, and you know, it can help you in the short term, you know, and yeah, you could lose weight or whatever, but it's just not something that's sustainable. I want my health, my life, my experiences and that kind of stuff to be sustainable things that will, you know, last me for the rest of my life, and things that I'll be able to, you know, share and emulate for my kids, and, you know, hopefully they pick up and do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I know I have, and I know a lot of patients have too. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
And see you next time.
See ya.